Rapid fire questions, Joe. Yes, the question was, do you ever reach 500 kg milk solids? What was the milk solids for last year?
500 kg is the goal. Our herd average was 454 last year. It'll be higher this year. The herd is slightly maturer. Plus, we didn't send any milk. Sorry, we didn't feed any milk to calves because of the automatic feeder. So, hoping.
Why does that affect you?
Because it'll tie in the co-op. The co-op performance report is only milk that you sell. She was on heat this morning, so she didn't let down on her milk. Paul Finnegan, 1984, asks, what are we doing with the directly crossed calves? Are we going to keep them for breeding and milk them, or are we going to feed them, sell them as beef calves?
We are going to sell them as beef calves because they were born too late. They'd be the wrong age for us to put into calf. So this year they'll be sold as beef, and then hopefully we'll convince Joe that he loves them and let them infiltrate the herd. We'll breed them into the herd next year. See how we get on this year.
Not a hope.
James O'Brien 9397, I think was his username, asked,
Keep over. Come on.
how big is your milking platform and how much finished feed do you typically feed per cow for the season?
Our milking platform, when we have every acre of grass in, is 54.34 hectares. That includes all the ground that's up in the uncles and all the land that's across the road that we walk to in the spring and in the autumn. Last year we fed 800 and I think it was 33 kilograms of meal per head. The target obviously is 500 kilos, but that's a dream, I think, these last couple of years. So we try to go for 750 if we can, and that's the long-term goal, or the 5-year average. If you got that at 750, you'd be happy. But because our farm is dry, we can burn up a little bit in the summer, and we have to feed a little bit more. Obviously, this spring was quite wet, so we're feeding above average there for longer than normal.
Kieran Delvin 867 asked, what is the reason for milking crossbreds and not black and white cows?
When I took over the farm, came back to the farm in 2004, we had a traditional liquid milk British Holstein Friesian herd of relatively high yielding but low milk solids. So I knew that liquid milk, milking all year round, wasn't the way to go for our farm, that we could carry more cows, grow more grass. And the quickest way of increasing milk solids was to introduce the Jersey genetics and go crossbreed and take full advantage of the hybrid vigor. So that's what we have at the moment. And we went at the start exclusively 100% Jersey bulls across everything. And after a year or two, we were able to go with crossbred bulls, which were predominantly Jersey based, but then keeping a little bit of Holstein Friesian back into the herd. And now we've gone full circle. This year, our dairy straws were Holstein Friesian because we have reached our milk solid percentages, so we just need to up our yield a little bit. Crossbred cows are generally small and quite light, so they're low maintenance. They don't cost a whole lot to keep over the winter. Our farm is also very long and narrow, so there's a lot of walking from the milking parlour here to the very furthest field, about 45 minutes. And we find Jerseys, because they're lighter and the Jersey crosses, to have that solid black hoof, which is a little bit. Crossbred cow has a solid black hoof, as you can see, which is we find is very good for long walks and not super roadways like ours.
Yeah, we used to have a lot of foot problems with the Friesian cows, didn't we? Is that also because they're purebred, so they're higher maintenance, that kind of thing? They don't have the hybrid vigor of
Also, another advantage is when a cow goes down in the cubicle over the winter, which happens, and if people tell you that they don't, they're probably lying to you. Small crossbred cow that weighs 600 kilos, it's very easy to bounce around in the cubicle and get out of it, as opposed to a big 750 kilo Holstein Friesian cow. That's a 3 or 4 man job, but plenty of the time you've been able to rescue a cow out of the cubicle because she's small and light.
There's 5-year, 10-year expansion we were very aware of. We were limited to the shed space, at the time as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to push on.
We like our Jersey crosses. So Paul Finney in 1984 asked, do you grass measure or do you just know by looking around? So Ellen, do we grass measure or do you just know by looking around?
Well, Joe was very experienced at just looking around. Obviously, I haven't got a notion, so we got a grass hopper. That's the brand of it. So that's going to be my job now. Joe has grass measured twice, and he just never gets around to doing it enough. So that's going to be my job now, is to take over the grass measurement between myself and Fionn. We should get it done.
Michael Deering 1494 asks, what's the plans for the farm in the next 5 years?
Maybe you should answer this one. Okay, so we have planning permission in for cubicles. We need, our cubicle houses are old and we need more space. We're currently using the shed up in Joe's uncle's that it's not really ideal for milking cows. Our stocking rate is on the low side. We're not even on the what Teagasc would call the medium end of what our stocking rate should be. So we, when we get our shed space built, we are going to increase our cows by 10 to get us into the medium stocking rate, and that will probably be the limit we'll be at then, to just stay as we are and keep yard maintenance, fence the farm, and drive on. That's the limit we're at for labour. We don't envision expanding any further than as we are as a family farm. And Joe, your answer to the 5-year expansion?
Yeah, so as Ellen said, there's significant capital investment plans, 100,000 cubicle sheds, which is required because we're limited for cubicle space and feed space. And in the winter, we're currently feeding over 3 farmyards, which is very labour intensive. Hard on machinery, hard on the stock, and hard on the man. So that's a requirement. It'll also bring us up to scratch with current regulations for nitrates, etc., and slurry storage. And as Ellen said, the calf shed, we'll have more calving space for our cows in the spring. After that, then it's just driving efficiency. So we will go to our maximum stocking rate, I suppose, it's allowed under nitrates, and with the current land that we have, we will keep pursuing the 100 kilogram or 500 kilograms of milk solids per cow. We will try and increase our sustainability in terms of reducing nitrogen fertilizer by including more clover in all of our paddocks and our grass mixes. Yeah, so just chasing them efficiencies then, and improving our work-life balance. When the sheds are built, our work-life balance should improve significantly, particularly over the winter when we cows are dried off and it's meant to be a quieter time, but currently there's a lot of feeding, a lot of driving on the road, a lot of to and fro, so we'd have everything back into 1 yard.
And a bit of background on the farm. Joe's parents didn't inherit their farm, they had to buy it, which I think we worked out was the equivalent of nearly 3 million or something mental back in the day. So a lot of their investment over the years was obviously paying for the farm, and then there was limited sheds built. So now we're on the expansion phase of adding on to their amazing legacy, what they did. So we built the new milking parlour. Their milking parlour was obviously for only 40 cows. We're milking 140. So now it's getting the shed space up to par of how we've expanded the farm. And hopefully we are leaving enough room for the next generation to come along that we will, between what we've done and Joe's parents have done, there will be a very decent enterprise there for them to expand on without massive investment that has been done over these 2 generations.
We're very much a family farm here, but the ideal scenario is that it's a one-man operation or one-person operation. So obviously in the next 5 years, with the shed build, etc., we're trying to reach that goal that I can do it on my own, or Ellen can do it on her own, or Vincion or Oscar, whoever's going to be coming after us, can do it on their own with a small amount of help at the busier times, i.e. calving and breeding, and then the rest of the year it's very much a one-person job, and that's the goal, because labour in Irish farming is becoming a hugely expensive thing. It can be got at all. So that's going to be very much a limiting factor, I think, for farms going forward. So yeah, that's our 5-year plan in a long nutshell.
And don't you know, it all depends on milk price, weather, and banks, and we have to make sure that the loans that we take, we're sustainably able to repay them and not sacrifice our mental health, our physical health, and our family's well-being. Obviously our children are going to college, etc., so we need to keep all of that in mind and have a work balance that you can afford to go on a holiday. We've only had our second foreign holiday with the kids there last year, and just keep in mind all those things, that they're important as well. And obviously tip-top cow health. Michael Doyle 6766. Hi, great video. What's your stocking rate in the grazing platform?
Our current stocking rate is 2.67 because we have the full farm, full grazing platform back under the cows. That's changed. Sorry, actually changed yesterday. We have the in-calf efforts back on one of the far away grazing fields. So it's increased slightly. It's not a massive amount. But yeah, our fields that we caught the first cut silage off are back in now. We make first cut silage predominantly off the out farm, but we also stock up a couple of fields here at home on the milking platform to make sure that we have enough silage over the winter. 2018 really caught us by the short in curlies, and we had to buy in a huge amount of silage and hay and everything else we could get our hands on because we had nothing. We had a 6-week feeding period during the summer, which was full winter feeding. We used an awful lot of feed, so we try and ensure that we have enough silage now, and thankfully we've been able to do that. So, but yeah, current stocking rate on the milking platform is 2.67.
This was a message from a lady on Instagram, Joe. She's in her mid to late 40s, and her husband thinks it's too old to learn how to drive a tractor and won't let her get involved in that side of the farm. What do you think?
We won't let her what?
Won't let her involved in that side of the farm, driving tractor and machinery.
That man obviously loves his tractors. No one is too old to learn how to drive a tractor. Ellen's mom learned how to drive a car when she was what, like 50 plus or something?
Yeah.
I don't like driving tractors, so the more people on this farm that can learn how to drive the tractor, the better. Don't care what age you are, as long as you're careful and try not damage it as much as I do. Get out, learn how to drive. It's like riding a bicycle, it's like driving a car. It's actually easier than driving a car. Okay, it's a bit bigger, but no, get out, learn how to drive it. No one is too old to learn how to drive a tractor.
I think the tip is as well to stay within the field for the first year or two. I only started properly driving the tractor last year, topping fields. Before that, it was on the small Ford, scraping the yard. It was actually harder just around the yard, and our farm is nice actually, so to be. Anyway, the amount of dents and stuff in the tractor and in our sheds, Joe and his father over the years have reversed and dented into a lot of things, including some contractors have been in this yard, and our military man have reversed into gates and everything here. Stuff happens, and from my experience, don't panic. I used to seriously panic when stuff happened, and Joe be like, oh, I've done that before. No, I'm not going out top of fields and something gets stuck. I've hit off something. Just don't panic, and yeah, don't take shit from nobody, because they've done it all before.
Okay, so Lauren of 6 Smith asked, what do we think of the automatic calf feeder?
Life changing. I practically feel like I haven't gone through a normal calving season at all. The workload is reduced just dramatically, as from Joe bringing milk over, from me feeding the calves, and it's amazing the difference in the calves. They don't get milk drunk because they're not getting this massive feed of milk twice a day. Their feeds are divided up well. As much as you can change the system, you can divide it up as many feeds as you want. Ours, we're getting 3 feeds a day, so the calf shed is so quiet when you go in because they don't associate you with feeding them milk all the time, and they're not having big gaps in feeds. It's ad lib, I suppose, more or less, as it can be. So the only difference is that we have an outgoing of buying in milk powder. So, but absolutely life changing. I would recommend it to anybody. Would you, Joe? Is that blind?
Yeah.
Have we got
Yeah, I would totally agree. Workload in the morning here for me at breeding time, etc., was a bit chaotic trying to pull out milk for particularly the last year and the year before when we were keeping a few beef calves and with all our dairy ones. So you'd be keeping back milk for over 100 calves and with everything calves, and that was just insanity. So now I was just a bit of colostrum milk at the start when we were calving, and then when all the cows were calved, it was just milk the cows and feeder fed the calves.
And Joe, we forgot to say the reason we this year we were hesitant to change over because we're using the probiotics, and since we started using the probiotics for calves, we've had 0 calf deaths. And I know people say that, but I literally mean we have had 0 apart from a stillbirth or someone that had a malformity. But we've had no calves that died from sickness. So to change over to the automatic feeder, the fact that they had manufactured the unit to go onto the side of the automatic feeder that we could continue using the probiotics, that was what really pushed us over to go, okay, we're gonna give it a go.
As Ellen said, obviously there's the outgoing of milk powder, but sure, you weren't selling, counted that by sending extra milk to the co-op. The weaning weights of our calves have been absolutely fantastic and extremely uniform, which is really, really beneficial. Total control over what calf does what. You can have, I think it's like 6 or 7 different feeding curves. We just had 2, dairy and beef, but you can have mixed ones. You can put a smaller calf on a different feeding curve. It's just the options.
You can edit it to anything.
Yeah, the options are limitless. For example, our last 2 dairy heifer calves that were born quite small, they were from first calf cows, and I felt they were on the dairy curve. I felt there a month and a half ago that they were behind where they should be. So just 2 clicks of the button, I switched them over to the dairy curve, or sorry, to the beef curve, that they're going to be finishing at the same time or weaning off the same time as their last 2 beef calves. So happy days, they're getting an extra 20 days on the feeder, and they're flying over there now. So it's total control over what they're doing.
And one of the biggest things with feeding the calves, the way we were doing it, was the feeding was one part of the job, but the wash up afterwards. And obviously we don't have a purpose-built shed, so wheeling all of the equipment over to the dairy, and then it would take nearly an hour and a half to wash and sterilize everything. The automatic feeder washes itself out, so just once a week you have to go and actually wash around the units itself where the calf goes in and sucks from, because you know all their milk slobber and splatter that goes on any dirt from the shed. So a half an hour to 40 minutes cleaning those every week as opposed to an hour and a half every day is just unreal, life-changing for the whole entire family.
We found as well that the calves started eating meal a lot quicker than they were when we were feeding them twice a day, and then we used to put them on to once a day after whatever it was, a couple of weeks. We found that the intakes of meal really skyrocketed, like they were up. Most calves, by the time they came to weaning, I would say easily were eating 2.5 to 3 kilos of meal a day. So, which is obviously fantastic. There's no checking growth rate then from when they wean off.
And they had a much longer weaning period, which I think has done them the world of good. Yeah. And it left us a lot more time to concentrate on calf health. If there was a few times there was some coughs or calves with ears down, and we were on it like a bonnet, weren't we, straight away. And it also meant that we didn't have to have small pens anymore. They were in far bigger pens with automatic feeder, so it was just a matter of getting a bale in and rolling it out. Just made everything so much easier. And we are basically a 2-man show most of the year. Obviously when Fion's off school, he's around, and when football isn't on, all the kids are here at the weekend. But yeah, labour wise, unreal, life changing. Recommend it to everyone.
So Ellen, what audiobooks do you listen to?
So this is the criteria. You go to Audible, you type in cowboy romance, and whatever comes up top, the smuttier the better, all the kisses and romance. And that's all the criteria. And if it's free, all the better.
Smiley head in that.
I love me a man in a cowboy hat.
Did we get all the wheat spraying done?
No. And I don't think we're ever going to. But I am not the most confident on the quad, just because I haven't driven it that much. So I found it very awkward on the bumpy field, holding on and spraying at the same time. So I said I would stick to doing all the laneways. We have a very long farm. I think it's like How many kilometres long is it, Joe?
The what? The farm?
Like 2 kilometres long? Something stupid like that. So I'm going to do the laneways, and Fionn has committed to doing the bumpy fields, and between the two of us we hopefully will get it done. But sure, it's an ongoing job. Joe's mother, we were so blessed, used to do it back in her day, and then suddenly she stopped, and now we all miss her. Joe, did you ever work on another farm?
Yeah, I've worked on multiple farms. Other farm I worked on was where we used to help our grandfather when we were kids. He had sheep and sucklers, so that's where I learned all I know about sheep, which thankfully I've forgotten over the years. And then we worked at neighbours' farms, neighbours up the back road there. I went up there my first year in college to get more experience on a bigger dairy farm. Done the summer there, a lot of tractor driving and stuff. And then I went to America for a year to work on a 3,500 cow dairy farm, and pretty much learned everything I know about cow health, calving cows, etc. At the time we were milking 50 cows here at home, and they were culling 50 cows a week, so the scale was just off the charts. So every make and shape of calving that you can think of, and yeah, an indoor system that was not about grass. But then when I was in New Zealand, I went to New Zealand and worked on a dairy farm, big grass-based dairy farm in New Zealand. I went to agriculture college in England, so we had the farm in Harper Adams. Research or a trial, my dissertation on calf rearing. So yeah, worked on a few different farms. It's all, at the end of the day, like husbandry, cow breeding, cow health, all that stuff is very, very same. No matter where you go, the management systems are all different. How you get milk from the cow, what you feed her, etc., etc.
Do you have a farming qualification?
Pardon?
Do you have a farming qualification?
Yeah, I have a degree in agriculture with animal science from Harper Adams Agricultural University, as it is now. It was agricultural college when I started there in England.
And you're still friends with a lot of the guys now?
Yeah, a good group of lads that qualified with me, and with a local farmer Swatcraft group that everyone that's in it went to Harper Adams. So 2 boys here in Wicklow and 1 up the country in Down.
And tell them where they want you to go in the autumn, Joseph.
Us boys that graduate my year, we're looking to go foreign for a meet up, but that won't be happening. No interest in going anywhere without my beautiful wife.
Oh, thanks very much. Nothing that you're actually going away to somewhere very fancy a few weeks before or anything. It's all my fault. Did you ever work in any other jobs in the agricultural sector?
Yes, I done 15 months with Teagasc, the semi-state government body. I was based up in County Monaghan. Yeah, after I finished my degree in Harper Adams, I went up there as a farm advisor. I had 130 clients on my books, predominantly beef and dry stock farmers with third-party dairy farmers. Yeah, interesting experience getting to deal with people. Got exposed to a lot of different farming systems, different parts of the country. Coming home and milking at the weekends and stuff. Our long-term goal was always to come home farming, and I felt that being up there sort of delaying that a little bit. My dad was getting on a bit and whatever, so there's more help required here at home. So I went travelling for a year, got one last stint out of the way, and been home full-time farming since.
And met me.
And met Ellen.
Joseph, did you ever want to milk another animal apart from your gorgeous Jersey cows?
To me, do I ever want to milk another animal?
Goats?
Oh,
remember
sorry,
the goat
no.
thing you went through?
Oh yeah, I had an awful notion there before we invested money in the milking parlour that I wanted to milk goats, and done a good bit of research and put a lot of thought thinking into it, and advice at the time was that yeah, there was a very high demand for the milk, which I think there still is. Very high demand for the milk, but it needed to be produced all year round, and we were a couple of years into our spring calving system and enjoying not milking over the winter and stuff, and it would have mean that we would have to go back to milking on Christmas morning, etc.
And if we had a shed space, the idea was that maybe I could keep going in the old milking parlour with goats. It would be very easy to retrofit. The time the kids were still tiny, and with our expansion we knew we wouldn't have the shed space yet. So
yeah, it was going to be a significant investment in stock and converting the sheds, because milking goats have to be kept inside. They don't like the rain.
That's not where your heart is, Joe.
No.
Did you ever farm any other animals?
When we long-term leased the farm off my uncle, he had some ewes and lambs, so we kept his last crop of lambs, which was 30 Suffolk Cross lambs. Purchased a purebred Charolais ram and put him to him, and thought we were going to make our fortune. Myself and Ellen and Paddy had a disaster of a lambing season. It was 30 ewes, 28 Scandin lamb, I think upwards of 9. I think it was 9, if I remember correctly, suffered that toxoplasma abortion just as they came close to lambing, so we didn't have a whole lot of live lambs. It was an absolute disaster. My one and only time. Been a sheep farmer, and never again.
Yeah, it was traumatizing. And also, our end of the farm is not fenced at all for sheep. So now we just keep a few pet lambs to the freezer every year.
That's it, yeah. The only place for a sheep is on the plate.
What's your farm plan for the rest of this year on this home farm?
Yeah, so the yard, we have a lot of work to do on the yard in terms of catching runoff from our silage pits, etc. We have to increase the storage that we have there for dirty water. That will be done hopefully before the autumn sets in. With 2 tanks to put into the ground. We also have to re-concrete a significant portion of the lower yards that has really suffered over this last winter. We've been bumbling along with it for a good time, long time now, so we have to bite the bullet and buy concrete and buy a lot of concrete just to resurface that whole yard, make it easier to keep it clean and make it easier to separate out dirty water. And then hopefully we will be getting the ball rolling on our sheds building. Yeah, then just to see out the rest of the year, grow as much grass as we can, keep our meal bill down. We have our herd test to do, fingers crossed, and please God we'll pass that without any major issues. We have a lot of dairy heifer calves that are going to have to be carried over this coming winter, so we need to make a plan for them, whether we're going to house them all on the out farm or whether we're going to sow a forage crop. We'll be deciding that now in the next couple of weeks. We'll get it in after the second cut. We'll see how that goes. The forage crop we sowed last year didn't perform at all for us, so I'm a little bit reluctant to give that another go, but we'll see. Yeah, and then hopefully we'll have a good scanning on our cows and our heifers, prep for the winter, yeah, and drive on. That's it, the seasons won't be long about coming around and changing. And
Joe, someone asked, I can't remember who it was, are we happy with the Deutz-Fahr? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I like it as a tractor. It's compact and the loader is quite good on it. We're just having a bit of bad luck with it this year, unfortunately. Things going wrong. But that's
only 2 things that went wrong. The other things were all the mower, wasn't it?
That just happens with machinery, you know, unfortunately. So it's due a service, so we need to get a good service into it. Yeah, it's a nice powerful, small, compact tractor. Very suitable for what we need it. Hopefully it's going to last us a long, long time.
I think our issue is as well, we use it so much that we need the second machine. We rely on it too much. Like there's not many farmyards that literally only have 1 tractor.
No.
Joe wears exfoliating gloves to wash the units every morning. In the old parlour we had a hot water system. To buy a hot water scenario for this one, we actually installed.
Question was asked about 5 or 6 weeks ago about us spreading 18612 instead of can or urea at that time of the year. We had already been out with a bag of urea, protected urea at that stage. Traditionally we would have went with 2 bags of 18612, talking around the end of April or so, just to get the grazing platform's allocation of P and K. We have reduced that now because of being able to get out with the slurry tanker and spreading slurry with the dribble bar, etc. We can utilise our slurry that's available on the farm an awful lot more. It's vital that we get P and K in to the paddocks that need it on the grazing platform. We soil tested as well this spring, so before anything went out, so we know exactly what our indexes are for P and K across the whole grazing platform. We even bought some high phosphate fertiliser to go on at the end of the year for some of our paddocks that are very low in phosphorus. Also, on a money point of view, urea would be much better value than can. I know can is instantly available when it's spread. Urea as per unit of nitrogen would be a better value and we find it works very, very well here in this farm. Particularly protected urea. We don't really use normal straight urea anymore.
Thank you to everyone who sent in questions or any questions who's ever put under the videos. We really appreciate the interaction and that people want to know more about the farm. We're happy to answer them. We're not trying to show anything that's not here. We're not trying to pretend we're better than we are or anything. We're trying to show real life, and we think we represent a lot of farms out there that are in a transition phase, moving from maybe the old way their parents did it to the way they want to do it. And we're all going through a lot of change now with regulations. There's a lot of pressure on farms, and we just want to show that it's family farms that are being affected. You can see on our farms a lot of people coming and going all the time. There's a lot of farms that are keeping communities and rural communities going. So we really appreciate all the interactions, and if you ever want to know anything, please feel free to ask.
Just totally, as Ellen said, just trying to give a reflection and an insight or a window into what goes on Irish farms. We do stuff the way we do. Obviously there's scope for improvement on a lot of things, but as we've shown over the last couple of months, there's a lot of people that draw out the cow apart from ourselves, between contractors and merchants and everything else, and that's just the way it goes. So dairy farming in Ireland is a vital industry and supports an awful lot of business. Thank you for watching, and don't keep firing away the questions and we'll do our best to answer them.
And over the next few years we have a lot going on in the farm, so I think it'll be very interesting as we go through this journey. We're killing each other, but sure. Anyway, we'll say it together. Say it.
What?
Drive it on.
Drive it on.
No,
Sorry, I thought you wanted to kiss.
I said we'll say it together. Drive it on.